I'll tell you what, Dave, right? We've heard from a guy from Spotify, okay? And we've been informed they kind of prefer 45-minute podcasts. So we're going to try and keep 45 today. But Dave, can you please keep the space ramblings to a minimum? We all saw the craft went up in the end. It's all good. I don't want to have to go to the Zoom green room, okay, and explain to Racky Plews why we're keeping her waiting, all right?
Fine.
Right?
Absolutely fine. I will keep my mouth shut.
Right, okay. And second thoughts, I don't want to have to do this whole show by myself.
This week on Whisky and Things, we are joined by Racky Plews, a choreographer and director of all your favourite musical theatre shows.
And we enjoy the Michter's US #1 Kentucky Straight Bourbon, and we hear the poetic tasting notes from our special friend, the Whiskey God.
Don't forget to keep in contact with us on all our social media platforms. We are at Whisky and Things on Facebook and Twitter, and at Whisky and Things Podcast on Instagram. I think we're on LinkedIn too.
Yeah.
Don't know why.
And drop that E, remember? And also remember to rate, review, and subscribe to us on your preferred podcast platform.
You're listening to the Whisky and Things Podcast with Dave Giles and Nick Kent.
Welcome to Whisky and Things, episode 12. I am Dave Giles.
And I am Nick Kent. We've made it to a dozen. A dozen, Dave.
A whole 12. A whole 12? A whole 12.
Not a half a 12, a whole 12.
Thanks to everyone who listened in to last week's show. We delayed it, rightfully so, and came out on Wednesday. So we hope you've had enough time to listen to it. We have had a few people listen already as we're recording this, because we've only recorded on Thursday. So we've only had a day to speak to people. But I've heard from Danny Gruff.
Danny Gruff? How's he doing?
Yeah, not bad, not bad.
Yeah, he's all right.
Good. I'll let it
might be worth cutting to him. Yeah, we've heard from Danny Gruff, and he was thinking about the last few pods, Nick, and he distinctly remembers that when you were talking to Jared, you were saying how the really important thing when you're on tour as a musician is that you can get on with everyone and you're a good guy. But then after listening to the Robbie Coles interview and being reminded of the tour we all did together, he went back and watched my tour diaries that I did, my video diaries. Because I put the link in the description, and his exact words were, I may be paraphrasing, but I'm sure Nick said, rule number 1 of touring was make sure you're good to be around in your podcast. Looks like he's being a reet bellend on day 3. I've since watched that. You definitely were. You're in everyone's grill.
What was I doing?
You were very drunk still from the night before.
Oh.
And everyone's trying to sleep in the van, and you're prodding and poking and.
Well, I'm the kind of person you have on tour, so you can kind of, appreciate it when I'm not around. When I'm not drunk, you see? It's kind of like a give and take. You got to kind of give him a bit of a jib every now and again. So when I am calm, you're like, oh, it's a good day today.
Yeah, all right.
Anyway.
If you say so. Anyway, I also watched those tour diaries, and it was a lot of fun looking back at that old tour. It was a great tour.
Great tour, mate.
It was a great tour.
Great tour.
It was a great tour.
It's such a good tour.
Shall we crack on then?
Whiskey Bots, roll out.
This week's Whiskey.
Beautiful delivery, Dave.
Oh, I'm proud of that one.
Is Michter's US #1 Kentucky Straight Bourbon.
It says on my bowl it's a limited production American whiskey. Is that right?
Not strictly with this actual one. They have a bunch of others which are kind of limited production. They're like the 10-year-olds and the 20-year-olds and the 25s. This is a small batch though.
Right. We once again have our little Drinks by the Dram bottles.
Yes, we do.
On this one. I don't believe I've even seen a bottle of this in the flesh. I may have done, but I don't have any recollection of this.
No, I think it's kind of well known in America, but it's not really distributed further than that very often, I don't think. You can obviously get it. That's the thing, it is quite an expensive one.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is this an expensive bourbon, is it?
Yeah. But again, because of the distribution, to buy it in England, you're talking 50 to 55 quid.
For a bottle of bourbon, a young bourbon.
But in the US, it's $35 to $40. So
right, that's a considerable difference.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yes. But
what else you got? What else you got on this?
Well, it's had a few names in its time. Take this whiskey, for example. It's called US Number One, okay?
Yeah.
And it was to honor the Michter's heritage, harkening back to America's first whiskey company. It was originally known as Schneck's, and then later Boomburgers, these two companies, right? But then later became known as Michter's.
Right.
And it was founded by John Schneck, a Swiss farmer in Schaefferstown, Pennsylvania. Wrong Vania. In 1753.
Good year. I don't know, maybe.
After all those incarnations, okay.
Yes.
Shut down, prohibition, all this kind of stuff. During the 50s, Lou Foreman, one of the distillery's owners, created the modern Michter's brand name by, check this out, combining portions of his son's names, Michael and Peter.
Brilliant.
It's a good little whiskey. As we said, it's quite expensive, and it's known for its quality. Oh, it's a beautiful colour. It's a beautiful colour.
I think this is the darkest one we've had.
Bourbon-wise. It's got good legs on it.
What does that mean? You've not said that yet.
No. If you swill it around in the glass...
I'm swilling it around in the glass. I do this every week.
You see how long it takes for those droplets to come down.
And the slower, the better. Is that what you're saying?
Well, the slower means it's got more, like a higher sugar content, a bit more viscous.
Viscous, like biscuits.
Yes. Bourbon biscuits. Or Bourbon biscuits.
That's the connection. Now we know. Now we know.
Yeah. But yeah, it's supposedly an old company, but they're using extremely kind of up-to-date methods to make it. For example, they're using forced heating in their warehouse, Dave.
Why would they do that, Nick?
Well, I'll tell you. You think about a lot of whiskey companies, they put the new make in the barrel and then they put it in a warehouse to age, okay?
Yeah.
And then they rely then on the different seasons, summer, winter, okay, the different temperatures and pressures to force the whiskey in and out of the barrel, in and out of the wood, getting the characteristics, the colours and all the taste and all that kind of stuff. What forced heating is they warm up and cool down the warehouses artificially. Therefore, they get maybe 2, maybe 3 cycles of seasons in 1 year to speed up that whole process.
Nice, clever.
Yeah, very clever. Thing is, I'd love to buy one of these. 50 quid to 55.
For a bottle of bourbon. The thing I find with bourbon is you don't want to drink it like you do with the scotches. The scotches, you want to savour a little bit, like you actually want to leave it on your tongue a little bit. With the bourbons, it's not quite the same. It's more of a get it down you drink. I haven't had too many expensive bourbons, but as they get more expensive, I don't necessarily notice the jump in quality like you do with scotch. When the price goes up for scotch, you really notice it.
Yeah.
Whereas a daily bourbon, you get a Bullet or a Jim Beam or something like that, is almost as drinkable as a slightly more expensive one.
I know what you mean. A scotch is maybe sometimes, especially around this maybe price range for us, it's more of an event, an experience,
isn't it? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And maybe as we learn more about bourbon, maybe as we have more expensive ones, maybe we'll get the opportunity. My opinion on that may change, but based on what we've had so far, that's where I'm at.
You just made me think. I watched a great documentary this week on Amazon Prime about bourbon.
Oh yeah,
it's called Neat. Very interesting. Yeah, I'll tell you why I like it. Great production value, but it's very informative as well.
Excellent. Amazon Prime, you say?
Amazon Prime, mate. Neat.
Later on in the show, you'll be able to hear from the Whiskey God for his tasting notes on the Michter's USA No. 1 bourbon.
Just get the things over with.
This week's things. Everyone's favourite bit.
Everyone's favourite. Well, is it though? Is it? As discussed last week, we were going to have a little poll. Ooh. And I suggested, if you remember, I suggested that there may be different results on different platforms.
Oh. Yes, demographics.
So I put it on Twitter and I put it on Instagram.
Did you know?
Yes. Would you like to have a guess at what the polls, and obviously these are scientific.
Oh, very. Yes. Yes.
Have suggested?
I reckon. I think Instagrammers are more into the whiskey.
Our survey says... Yes, you are correct. You are correct. On Instagram, we had 65% of people saying they preferred the whiskey. And on Twitter, we had 61% of people saying they preferred the things.
Really?
And my friend Lucy replied saying, both? So, bonus points for Lucy.
Yep. That's...
Definitely bonus points for Lucy there.
Got the point of a survey.
Exactly.
Love you!
Nick, I don't know if you noticed, but we had an email this week at Whisky and Things HQ.
Well, I was stalling this a little bit because...
Why?
I don't know. I found it a bit kind of... It hit me. It hit me, this email. Do you want to explain to the listeners what this email was?
We had an email from someone who's claiming to be Marty McFly.
No, you can't play games out there, okay? I'm in a very, very emotional place with this whole Marty McFly because I got quite attached to him. I did try and kill him a few times. But the more he flew away, the more, I loved him. And he did fly away, and I don't know where he is. So whoever's toying with us with this message.
I mean, it wasn't just a message. It was a song.
It was a song.
It was a song. Should we play it? I think we should play it.
Should we play it? Okay. Please be aware you might find this recording disturbing.
My name is Marty, and I am a fly. I was so happy, and now I want to die. I thought I found myself a home with a man with a sexy beard. He drinks lots of whiskey every day of the week, which I always thought was quite weird. I used to jump round and play by his side. When he was sleeping, I'd go away and hide. The very next day I'd appear again in front of a big, big screen. He tried to kill me a fair few times, which I always thought was quite mean. And now I sleep rough, out the window I went. And now I'm homeless, and all I ever wanted was a whiskey drinking beardy friend.
Oh.
So, there we go. I mean, if it is him, I'm very impressed.
I didn't know he had the talent.
I didn't know he had the,
vocal range.
Yeah, well, not just that. I mean, he's obviously learned how to use Pro Tools, a microphone.
Maybe, did you teach him all of this? Maybe he was just very observant.
He was watching me edit the show every week. So maybe he's run off. But
I don't actually know what to say about this. I mean, it
did make me miss him a bit. I'm not going to lie.
He sounds Scottish. There's a few words that are definitely Scottish in that. Beard.
Yeah. But for me, though, his chords and melody sound suspiciously like
a Danny Gruff song, doesn't it?
Welcome by Danny Gruff.
Yeah.
But I don't want to accuse Marty of plagiarism now.
No.
But it might have just been listening, because I was listening to Danny Gruff a lot, while he was here, helping his Spotify numbers go up.
Oh, of course. Well, that might be it. Might be it.
It's just ingrained on him, that harmony. But yeah, if whoever's doing this sick joke, can you please stop?
Just reveal yourself, because it's really funny. We just want to know who it is.
At least make a music video for it.
It's driving me mad. I
don't want to think about it because it's quite painful. Let's move on, Dave.
Anyway, should we move on? So this week we managed to catch up with a very old friend of ours, someone I met way back in the mid-noughties. I was asked to play guitar for a musical upstairs at the Gatehouse Theatre in Highgate. It was a Christmas musical, 6-week run. It was called It's Only Make Believe. And then I was invited back the following year for their Christmas musical, and it was The Young Ones, the Cliff Richard musical. And it's a family-run theatre by the Plews family. And they're a wonderful family. Mum and Dad run the theatre. Mum's a producer, Dad's a director. And the kids, Jess and Racky, just did everything. They learned how to do everything. Act, dance, sing, makeup, hair, lighting, sound, everything. They learned every aspect of the theatre business and also went to theatre school. So Racky, that first show I did was a choreographer. I can never say that word. Choreography and choreographer. I can never say it. Anyway, as you will find out listening to this. And then the next year she moved on to director. And then I didn't do any more. But randomly, Nick's also got a Racky Plews story.
Yeah. I met Racky back in 2008 because Dave recommended me to do some press shots for a show she was directing called Marriage of Figaro at the Shaw Theatre in London. And then I didn't work with her again for another 8 years when I was randomly asked to play bass in Green Day's American Idiot musical. She was directing.
Well, did you play bass in American Idiot, the musical?
You know what, I did. I should really go into it one time. It might come up in this interview, Dave.
It may do.
Yeah. I wasn't asked by her, but she was directing, which is great. And we've worked together a bunch since. In recent years, Racky's been involved with touring and West End productions such as Footloose, American Idiot, as I said, Summer Holiday. I was on that one as well.
Were you on that one?
Thoroughly Modern Millie. I was on that one as well.
Were you on that one?
Knights of the Rose.
Were you on that one?
And Susical, which sounds really cool. And she's also been doing many shows for Royal Caribbean Cruises as well, which she'll talk about later on. But yeah, she's a good friend of us both, and this was a really good little chat and a little catch up.
It was great chat. We start off talking quite technical, and then we get on some anecdotes later on.
Yeah.
Let's hear from Racky.
Racky Plews. Welcome, Racky Plews. Welcome to Whisky and Things.
Welcome, Racky.
Thank you.
So, Racky, talk me through it. What is the difference between a choreographer and a director? Because in my head, in musical theatre, they're the same job.
Good question, Dave. Good question.
Thanks. Nick wrote it. I'm just reading it out.
Yeah, while he's playing gigs, I was writing all the questions out. Don't worry about it.
As a director, you have the overall vision. So someone has to be steering that ship. And as the choreographer, it's the movement. And of course, as if you're choreographing movement, any kind of dance, it's going to have an emotion to it. So therefore, you're storytelling. And I think that's probably why quite a few choreographers end up going into directing, because it is quite a natural progression. We get taught as dancers to express ourselves with no words. So you have to be quite, that's what I love doing. Myself and Nick did a little show together called American Idiot, which he went to New Zealand with, which I know you're familiar with, Dave.
Yeah.
I'm glad that came from you in this.
Hang on, Nick, did you play an American Idiot?
Well, you know what? I did, mate. I did.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. Anyway.
Yeah, 3 runs, I think. 2 runs. Anyway, Racky, please carry on.
And of course, there is a little bit of dialogue. There's not much, though. There's a total of 9 pages of dialogue. I think putting that show onto the stage, because it's basically a concept album, I really wanted to make sure that the story was really visual. So in this case, being a director and choreographer really helped on this particular show, because I was able to use the music to express a story. And I think with directing, the technical aspect is what you need. And I speak to choreographers that I work with, and I say, "Oh, you've got a great eye. Why don't you try directing?" I say, "Oh, no, I can do that." And I think that's the technical aspects, which again, I feel so lucky about, having been brought up in a theatre, having to learn the lighting and the sound, and like you guys were saying, having that understanding of the different jobs. That I do find I love talking to those people, and I love the technical aspect of it. I directed, choreographed and created a show for Royal Caribbean, and they gave me quite a bit of nice money to be technical with. So I've got 64 drones that fly out over the audience at one point.
Wow.
This is the effectors, right?
It is the effectors.
I've been watching a lot of videos of this show.
Really?
Tell us a bit about it, because the The technology that's going on in this show is amazing.
Oh man, it's incredible. It's about superheroes, and Royal Caribbean wanted to create their own brand of superheroes. It was Nick Weir's idea, and if you don't follow him on Twitter, follow him, Nick Weir.
Okay.
And because he's always coming up with like the latest idea, the latest wanting to use the latest technology. And that's what I love too. So, between us and some other producers, we came up with as many aspects and technical ideas that we could think of. And then we narrowed it down, not by much. A lot stayed in. We've got holograms.
No way.
Yeah, we've got flying in the show.
Drones.
We've got drones.
The drones thing I was very impressed by. Hovering over the crowd for one. I didn't think that would be allowed, to be honest. All these drones kind of hovering around.
So I know you said it was a collaboration, but your role as a director or as a producer in that, did you say you're the directing, producing and choreographing that, or is
so I created it. Yeah, I didn't produce it. Producer usually is the person that finds the money.
Right.
I ain't got any.
Yeah.
Yeah, the producer is the person that brings it all together, and the logistics of it. I mean, I always get notes off the producer because that's who is, putting up the money and
putting up the moolah.
That's it, or having the investors. You okay, Dave?
Yeah, everything just fell off my wall.
Yeah.
What? Just randomly?
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
It's Nick's fault as well, but it doesn't matter.
It's all my fault.
Sorry. Is it your Lego rocket?
No, Lego rocket's all right. That's over there.
Okay, good.
We're fine. We're fine with that.
You saw the rocket launch, right?
Did I? I've got the hat.
There's another show that we did on the ship. It's called Flight, and it starts as SpaceX, and it goes back in time to the very first flight with the Orville brothers.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Dave's amazed.
Yeah. Oh, okay. You would love it, Dave.
You've done it now. You've done it. You've given him something else.
I went to 34 different air and space museums last year. So I think this would be right up my street. Yeah.
Yeah, Nick Weir, the producer of that show, just sent me pictures. He was at SpaceX for the launch. I was so jealous.
Oh, jealous. Yeah. I saw the Wright brothers plane last July. The original plane.
I just said the Orville brothers. It's Orville and
Wilbur.
Well done. Well done. I'm very impressed. It's got some good sound effect there for a winning.
Yeah, I'm sure Nick's got all the sound effects.
And Dave, honestly, if you can try and watch some of this stuff is on YouTube.
Okay.
The aeroplane that's used at the end of this show, it's the exact same size as the original aeroplane that the Wright brothers took.
Wow.
And it flies out around the audience.
No.
Yeah, it does.
That's amazing, because it's big.
Yeah.
Is this on a cruise ship, you're saying?
Yeah,
this is a cruise ship. How big's the theatre on this thing?
I think that's about 1,400 seats.
Can I ask a technical question here? You're on the sea, and the sea obviously moves.
Does it?
Like a boat on the sea would go up and down, right? So when you're dealing with technology in that context, do you have to factor that in? Are there certain things you can't do because of movement of the theatre? Because it's not like it's a building that's standing still. This is constantly moving.
I suppose I've never looked at it as what you can't do. I've always looked at it as a challenge and gone, right, what can we do?
Right.
Such an optimist.
I love that. I absolutely love that. Can-do attitude.
But what can we use that rolling around for?
Yeah.
Well,
there we go. The flying is the craziest because sometimes the flow is quite still compared to the rest of the ship. So it looks like it's more
smooth.
Yeah. But that said, it depends. Like if someone's on 2 wires, they've got more stability. If someone's on a single wire, they can go flying. You can't do the show. The stage manager has to make that call and say, no show tonight.
Wow. I hadn't even thought about that until we were having this conversation. that would be a limitation for cruise ship theatres.
But they're pretty big though, aren't they? They're pretty big. So I'm guessing the rollings are more minimal than like a
villages.
Cross-channel ferry.
I think on the biggest ship the biggest ship where Flight is on, I think it's 7,500 people.
It's crazy. That is absolutely crazy. That's a little city.
Can't even think about it.
That's bigger than like the smallest city in the UK. When it comes like maybe you're at a point in your career where this doesn't matter, but obviously you've made a living as choreographing. Is that the right term?
I mean, maybe. Do you want to try and pronounce the whiskies again?
Yeah, but I can't do words, and I'm fine with that. So you've made a living doing choreography.
Yeah.
And directing. Has there been shows like I don't expect you to name them, but how many times are you taking paycheck jobs where you actually can't stand the show? You're a positive person, so even a show you don't like, you're probably going to tell me I found a way to like it.
That's the problem, yeah. Because I would always, if I got offered something, I will always be truthful and honest to tell a producer if I thought I was the right person. And I think, again, that's probably my parents having a theatre, because they had so many visiting companies come to the theatre that you see how not to be a director as well as how to be a director. And I think that's just as important. You know, if you're looking at about going into any kind of profession, go and assist people, go and talk to people. And so much of who you become is what you don't want to be of someone else and what you do want to be of someone else. And when people would come to the theatre, to my parents' theatre, and hire the space and have a creative that didn't have their heart in it, and some guys just remortgaged their house to put on the musical that they've written, yeah. I think I saw enough of that to go, I would never, ever do that. But then you don't want to be too picky either, because we need to survive. But I would always make sure it's something that I feel I could, help the project. And I have to believe in it. Otherwise, as much as you're getting paid, you invest your life and soul into these shows. And as Nick will tell you, I don't usually just leave a show. I'm not that kind of director or choreographer and go, okay, see you later, guys. I'm there. I love it. I join in, usually on the last night or the last week of... Well,
you just turn up randomly as well.
I do, yeah.
So I like. Yeah. You kind of spot you out there. Oh, okay. You have to...
Some people...
Maximum effort tonight.
Oh, come on. You were like on point every show.
I did maximum effort every night.
That's it. You went beyond, babes. I mean, I gave him choreography.
That makes sense.
Yeah. I gave you choreography.
Yeah, I used to get in trouble with you. You used to tell me I was overacting. Bear in mind, I was just a guitarist at the back. Yeah, I did overact.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about you, Dave. I had the funniest bit in the show. I don't know about you. In American Idiot. We were getting all the laughs. In fact, in New Zealand, Blair actually told me I couldn't have as many laughs as I was getting. He cut me down.
That's my assistant.
I was only allowed 3.
Yeah. I remember him calling me about
Assistant director Blair said, no, you can't have that many. You're making them laugh too much. Yeah. You're only allowed 3.
Rule of thumb though, right? Comedies in 3.
Yeah, but I couldn't help it. You know, if they laugh, then it's not my fault, is it? You know,
and it just eggs you on, doesn't it? Then just eggs you on.
It does.
Yeah.
That's why. This is why musicians shouldn't be on stage in musical theatre. This is why the pit was designed to keep us out of the way, so that we don't steal the limelight from the precious actors.
Precious actors.
Those precious actors, exactly.
And you can hear the second part of the interview with the Racky Plews later in the show.
And talking of delicate actors, let's hear from the Whisky God.
Whoa! Ah! Hello, Mr. Giles. Hello, Mr. Kent.
Does he have to do that every time?
Can you give us a little bit of warning?
I thought we were going to have a sting.
My blood pressure is going through the roof. I'll tell thee. Good God. Well, good to see you.
You mean bad God?
Bad God. But Whisky God, you're such a wonderful performer and you've got such an epic voice. Have you ever thought about going into musical theatre?
Good question.
I don't care about that to be or not to be nonsense. There is no question. I prefer the delicate potty basque of a proper dram on my senses.
Well, the world's missing out as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, we all know you can sing, God. Imagine you in a musical. It'd be amazing.
Ooh. Twinkle toes. Little twinkle toes. So, God, how about you give us some tasting notes for this wonderful Michter's US #1 Kentucky Straight Bourbon.
Michter's US #1 Bourbon. Tasting notes. On the ice, a typical straight amber. On the nose, you will notice the corn and of course the oak barrels that did their wonderful job. A bit of dried fruit. However, oddly, something really interesting happens here. Knowing that you've a bourbon in hand, you will notice a strong sense of barley and raisins. Something normally typical of Highland malts, such as Johnny Walker Black, or even an island malt, such as the Jura Origin, which you can hear me review in episode 4. On the palate, with a very soothing mouthfeel, which I would say is half the viscosity of honey, you will detect an immediate sweetness. Not the kind from Buffalo Trace, but rather a more refined sweetness that has interesting pairs of tasting notes. Cinnamon with sweet corn, honey with spices. There is a bit of youth to this whiskey though, which you will detect near the end of the tasting. It might have benefited by maybe a couple more years in the barrels.
Well, but Nick was telling me they've got some older ones as well, like a 10-year and a 25-year.
Yeah, don't you know anything about Michter's, Whiskey God?
Are you kidding? I watched the birth of Michter's master distiller with a glass of something I remember being quite accurate in hand. What did the early Americans call it? Oh yeah, White Dog. Moonshine. It was like a really disgusting punch made of corn and confidence. But in the end, it turned out well.
Yeah, it did turn out well. I'm not sure why you're watching people give birth, but, you know, we did get bourbon out of it, but, yeah, I'll keep that on the down low.
Keep it on the DL, God.
On the finish, a really strange but welcome peppery vanilla note starts the departure from the palate. The smokiness of the oak as well, and a very pleasant spice and heat at the end. Overall, an age isn't provided here by the company, which is likely why you will notice it has an experience akin to that of other young bourbons, albeit with the aforementioned complexities, of course. While it is a bit pricey for what I would call a young bourbon, it is definitely not a starter bourbon, like that of Jim Beam White Label or Buffalo Trace. Either way, even though Michter's is known for their rye, I always welcome a glass of Michter's US #1 bourbon. Ta-ta.
See you, God. See you next week. See you next week. And of course, if you want to hear more from our Whiskey God, you could hear him sing a song or two on our Patreon page at patreon.com/whiskey and things.
Ooh.
That's whiskey with no E. Don't forget.
I'll tell you what, he mentioned that there wasn't an age on the bottle.
Oh, yeah.
They age their whiskies to taste. So they're constantly tasting to get the flavour they want, rather than actually just leave it for a certain amount of time.
Interesting.
How close are we to that 45 minutes yet?
Yeah, we need to crack on. Jeez,
Yeah.
we need to crack on.
The Whiskey God will be back next week. Same whiskey show, same whiskey channel.
Shall we hear some more from Racky Plews?
Yeah, let's do it.
Things.
I want to take you back to your choreography stuff. Two questions. First of all, what do you prefer, directing or choreography?
What do you prefer?
What do you prefer? What do you prefer?
But that's like saying, what do you prefer, rockets or guitars?
Yeah, good question. Right. So we'll move on to the next question then. And that's when you struggle, when you're directing, do you struggle to let go of being a choreographer?
No, not at all.
Okay, which brings me on to another question.
When I'm a choreographer, do I have to let go directing? No.
Is there a signature Racky Plews move which you put into every single show, regardless of whether it is, what's the word I'm looking for?
Appropriate?
Appropriate.
Yes, I do.
Amazing. I thought there was.
Yeah, I think it's really important to have certain moves because it's a style.
Yeah.
Hopefully you want to be recognised for your work, don't you? And there are a couple of silly, fun moves that I always put in as well. And I think it's like Disney, you know, apparently Mickey Mouse is always in a Disney movie. Did you hear that?
No.
Apparently.
So somewhere he'll be in a...
Apparently, yeah.
Little Easter egg.
Easter eggs. It's a choreography Easter egg. I like that.
There is one move, which I may have this completely wrong, but there's a kind of move, which I think is a Racky Plews move. And you tell me if it's not. So I'm going to stand up and demonstrate.
I cannot wait.
Oh, here we go.
It was something like this. It was like... I seem to recall that being double-handed thing.
For the listeners, Dave just attacked his own crotch.
With both hands.
And then projected both hands forward.
Yeah.
Karate chopped his groin.
Is it something like that, or am I? Or is that?
There are definitely shows out there that have that movement, including one that Nick worked on, with the West End Bears.
That show.
One of my favourite things about being part of a show, and Nick might agree with me, is the misbehaving. So. I loved it when the actors were trying to make each other laugh, the hazing, all those kind of little things that make each show the naughtiness that the actors do, and to entertain each other and the people in the crew. When you're doing a show for 6 months, they're the little things that keep you sane. How difficult is that as a director to kind of let go or stamp out? Obviously there are lines that can't be crossed, but to an extent, do you want actors to be doing that kind of thing?
That's it. So as the director, you set that line, you set that border, and as you both know, so you both worked with me, but I do love the naughtiness and the cheekiness as well.
Yeah.
For me, the whole buzz that I get of going to see something or working on something is that it's live. Of course, there are restrictions or boundaries that you have to set. For example, lighting, not all the lighting fixtures move. They can't all follow. You don't want to follow spot in every sequence. So standing on Battleship upstage number 2 to downstage number 8, you have to go on where it's set to go. But how you get there in your thought or physicality might be a possible moment to see how you're feeling that night. And I think now the further that I get in my career, the more comfortable I am, and like setting those boundaries. And I actually enjoy saying, you know what, guys, this is a free moment. And by saying that it's a free moment, actually allows that person then to go, what? Okay, I can breathe in this moment. I can see how I feel. It's not, you have to make sure it doesn't change the storyline, or it doesn't have a knock-on effect. But as long as you've talked about a moment that could be free, it actually makes the rest of the show secure, and people then want to hold on to those secure things. A lot of people say, do you secret show watch? And I feel like I don't need to. I feel that there's enough fun in the show, and there's enough moments where people, and we've talked about the story so much that people just want to honour that and have fun and do the best that they can do. So I think finding that balance is really, really important. And that's something that I just love to explore as a director.
Yeah.
Guys and Dolls was a classic. There's a moment in the show where, do you know Guys and Dolls?
I think I saw it years ago, so probably
I do. I saw it when your sister was doing wigs in town.
Oh, yeah, right. Okay, so there's a moment quite near the end. There's Nicely gets up and sings a song in the missionary. In the missionary? Missionary.
We all love the missionary, so go on, carry on.
And he talks about a dream. He sings about a dream that he's had
in The Missionary.
Yeah. Someone at the very end, someone says, "Sit down, you big fat water buffalo." I mean, that's what's into it. And I remember our guy wasn't that big and fat who sang it. So the guy that delivered the line, David Muscat, I said to him, "All right, well, let's change the insult every night."
Nice.
Okay.
Oh my goodness. So I think the best one was something like, and this guy was Ginger, and he said, "Sit down, you big teenage mutant ginger turtle." Oh my goodness. The whole stage of people erupt. Like, you've got shoulders.
Really accurate for the period down. As well.
Yeah, really went for the period. Yeah. And everyone, and I remember the one of the guys, he just went, just out in the middle of a scene. And I thought, oh no, we've maybe gone a bit too far, but
yeah, they're definitely my favourite moments was trying to hide laughter on the stage, and Stu used to play bass, sitting there trying to not to laugh, and then of course you just can't anymore hold it in, and it comes out like some weird cough, like
that's it. Well, you've got John Addison on that show.
Oh my God, he'd come running over because he was wearing the overalls. Do you remember the overalls that when they weren't their characters? Because you used to come on stage dressed in those sometimes and be in the show.
On the last show with the mustache.
Yeah, with the mustache. It was amazing. But John would come running over to the band, land in front of us, rip open his overalls, and we'd have something written on his chest or something drawn, something phallic drawn on his chest, and whilst we were playing, and expect us and he was constantly trying to.
I remember he got a BB gun, didn't he, or something, and shooting people from backstage.
He was shooting us while I was playing. I'd get hit. Someone for Christmas in the Secret Santa got him this BB gun.
Yeah, that was it.
And it was because it was a Christmas show, and it was like, oh my God. This is both the best and worst thing ever. But I love those moments. That's what I remember about it. 13 years on, we talk about that. Those moments.
Mock-up matinees were always one of my favourite shows.
Yeah, mock-up, and again, it's really difficult because I get, again, it's setting those clear boundaries because a mock-up matinee, for those people who are listening who don't know about that, it's usually the penultimate show, which is a matinee, because you usually finish on a Saturday night and there's a Saturday matinee. So on the Saturday matinee, as long as nothing changes the story in the show, if you're working in the West End, people can pay up to £150 a ticket. You can't be messing about too much. But if you can do something subtle and everyone can enjoy it, there are the theatre fans that are out there who know about these mock-up matinees will be looking out for these things. So sometimes there are just gems and it's a real special part of theatre to be a part of.
Obviously, this is a podcast called Whisky and Things.
I know.
And, it's been
I
loads
know
of
things.
It's been a wonderful. But we do have to ask, Racky.
Yeah.
Do you like whiskey? You can be honest. It's fine.
Don't make me Sam Lavery you.
Yeah, I know, that's it. I just thought the dramatic pause. Again, I just thought there was good music.
Oh yeah, I want a sound effect there, Nick, please.
Yeah.
So I really
more crickets. I'll put some crickets over that
bit. Yeah, you know what? Jack and full fat Coke used to be my drink.
Yes, it's lovely. It's lovely. A lot of people don't like it. It's nice.
That was after I was when I loved Smirnoff.
Yes.
I mean, do you remember that Smirnoff Ice?
Yeah, the glory days.
That's sugary.
The lime Bacardi breezes, Smirnoff Ice, and Jack and Coke. That's a night out.
That's it. And I remember there was someone I really fancied, and it was Jack and Coke, and so that's it. And that's probably another reason that you start drinking something is because someone else is drinking it that you like or you idolize.
I'm glad you didn't name drop there and tell everyone it was me, but that's fine.
Yeah.
Thanks
so much, Racky.
That was awesome.
Keep doing what you guys are doing best, and that's the podcast. Wait, hold on. No, you're great.
What do you do?
And a great photographer. Guys, just keep doing what you're doing because it's incredible.
Thanks, Racky.
You're listening to the Whiskey and Things podcast.
Oh, mate, that sound.
What is that noise?
That means,
That's new.
That means we've gone over 45 minutes.
No!
Yeah, I know. We failed that task.
Oh, it's all Marty McFly's fault.
Yeah, I guess we're never going to be a hit podcast, mate.
We can keep dreaming. There's always next week, Nick. There's always next week.
Oh, well, back to the day job. Oh. Okay, well, watch this space on that one. Anyway.
Man, that was a lot of fun. I enjoyed that.
It was.
It was so nice catch up. I've not spoken to Racky in a long time. So having those, like, recollecting those memories about the shows we did all those years ago, I have such fond memories of playing upstairs at the Gatehouse in their Christmas shows. I won an award, Nick.
I'm sure that's a great story, Dave, but we don't want to go too far over 45 minutes, all right?
Yeah, all right, fine. Another time.
If you would like to find out a bit more about the wonderful Racky Plews, you can log on to her website at www.rackyplews.com, and you can find her on Twitter and Instagram at Racky Plews.
Of course, you can hear the full interview on our Patreon page and also on Facebook this week. She actually turned up with a quiz, a whiskey quiz for Nick and I. So it was a six-question quiz.
It's very uncomfortable.
We had no idea it was coming. So we'll be putting up a video of Racky giving us a quiz on our own podcast, or trying to hijack our podcast on our Facebook page at some point this week.
My musical theatre career was on the line for this.
It was on the line.
It was on the line. So, check that out, people.
Well, thanks very much for listening. Sorry that we end up overrunning again. We'll do better to try and keep the time a bit shorter next week, but I've enjoyed the show. Snappier. Yeah. Need to shut up, don't I? Need to be more concise and more economical with my words, Nicholas. That's what I need to do. Anyway, talking of which, thanks to everyone who's been listening this week. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you ever get a chance to try the Michter US #1 bourbon,
Kentucky straight bourbon.
And let us know what you think. I've really enjoyed this bourbon. So if you've had it, let us know what you think.
Yeah, let us know. Next week, we'll be sampling the Glenlivet Founders Reserve Single Malt.
Is this our first Glen?
It might be our first Glen.
Is it our first Glen?
Have we made 12 episodes without a Glen?
Without a Glen.
Yeah. Call ourselves a whiskey show.
That
can't even stick to 45 minutes. Haven't got a Glen. What's going on?
I'm sure there was a Who's Glenn anyway joke somewhere in it. Anyway. Yeah. Stick around for our first Glenn next week.
At the moment, we don't have a guest lined up, but then we didn't have a guest lined up for this week either. And we had a great one in the end. So
that turned out all right, didn't it?
Turned out pretty rosy.
Pretty damn well.
Anyway, let's wrap it up, Dave.
Let's rack it up.
That's what I nearly said.
Whiskey and Things has been brought to you by And Things Productions.